Hello friends, we have the third lecture on Aravind Adiga's The White Tiger. The topic is themes and techniques in The White Tiger. We will see the objectives, Adiga's diagnosis of India. We will see the major themes like the Rooster Coop and Servitude. We will also examine some interesting techniques used in the novel like email and flashback and also dark humor, and then summarize our discussion. We have a picture here. The person who is sitting below is Balram Halwai, who is massaging the leg of the stork. Mukesh is looking on. Let us see the objectives now. The first objective is to understand Adiga's diagnosis of the Indian problems from a writer's perspective. Our society has some problems and authors have the responsibility to understand the problems and present them in creative writings. The second objective is to discuss the major themes in the novel The White Tiger. The third objective is to examine some notable techniques used by Adiga in his novel, and finally the fourth objective is to illustrate the dark humor that Adiga has employed throughout the novel. We will give some example for that as well. We begin with an interview with Adiga. So we have called it Sawhney's interview with Adiga. We have two paragraphs in two different slides. Let us begin with the first one. According to Adiga, the book deals with an India smack in the middle of the boom, the economic boom, and it challenges a lot of comfortable assumptions about Indian democracy and economics. I want to challenge this idea that India is the world's greatest democracy. It may be so in an objective sense, but on the ground the poor have such little power. Democracy means all people have equal opportunity for living happily, satisfactorily, but then Adiga has understood that the poor have little power in a democratic country, so it is not exactly a great democracy. That is how Adiga understands India. The second passage that we have from Sawhney's interview with Adiga is this: the fact that a lot of Indians have very little political freedom, especially in the north of India, that elections are rigged in large parts of the North Indian state of Bihar, and they are also accompanied by violence. There is like 35 killings during every election. If you were a poor man, you would have to pick China over India any day because your kids have a better chance of being nourished if you are poor. Your wife is more likely to survive childbirth. You are likely to live longer. There are so many ways in which India's system fails horribly. There are many failures in our political and administrative front. That is what Adiga has found and has described in his novel. What are the themes and techniques that we find in the novel? We have listed several themes here: globalization, economic development, social development, democracy, corruption, class conflicts, rural and urban divide, and finally the Rooster Coop, which has a bearing on servitude. Among the techniques we have email writing, Bildungsroman, flashback, poster, advertisement, table, juxtaposition and dark humor. We will see the themes first and techniques next. Here again we have listed all the themes. We can go to their themes one after another. We will start from globalization and move on to the Rooster Coop. First, let us begin with globalization. We all know that India opened its market to the world in 1991. The opening up of the market ushered in huge inflows of capital into the country. It brought in opportunities for a better standard of living for the people. Housing, education, health, transportation all improved largely in urban areas. In contrast, rural areas have not received so much attention for development. As a result, huge migrations occurred from villages to cities looking for opportunities. However, the benefits of globalization have not reached all parts of the country equally to all sections of the people. The second theme is economic development. Our country has witnessed economic growth tremendously. We have more of private investments which have contributed to the growth to a large extent. However, economic inequality has begun to increase between the poor and the rich. Paradoxically, the rich became richer and the poor became poorer, and this we can witness even now. It has almost become irreversible with more push for economic liberalization and privatization. When we liberalize more and more of economy, when we privatize more of government operations, the divide between rich and poor increases. It has affected the social and psychological fabric of the Indian society like never before. Balram Halwai is one manifestation of this disturbance in the social and psychological fabric of our society. That is what Aravind Adiga tells us. The third theme that we have is social development. Before the independence, thousands of castes were regulated intact. In fact, there is a kind of insight that we get into the novel. After the independence, mainly three divisions were recognized for the sake of social development of the downtrodden people like SC, ST and OBC. As Balram says, after independence, jungle law replaced the zoo law. There was a kind of regulation in the zoo law, whereas in the jungle law there was no such regulation. Competition between different groups of people resulted in the weak becoming weaker, like Balram's own father, who was a sweet maker. Because of the independence, he lost his business and he could not survive as a sweet shop owner. He had to become a rickshaw puller. People lost the protection offered by the caste system. This is something, a very interesting observation that Aravind Adiga makes. Caste system before Indian independence provided some kind of protection to people, whereas in the independent India, this protection is lost. Though some kind of opportunity is given to people in the form of reservations to three sections of people, SC, ST and OBC. Individuality and enterprise paid off well. Those people who worked very hard, those who had that capacity to survive, they could become entrepreneurs, they could become better people, or they could become rich and richer. Aravind Adiga discusses the theme of democracy in the novel. India is considered to be one of the largest democracies in the world. But the real spirit of democracy is absent on many counts, as Aravind Adiga shows in his novel. The elected representatives, particularly in the north that we see in the novel, work for the people in words but not in deeds. Ashok calls a parliamentary democracy a tragedy in India. Ashok, educated in the US, is familiar with democracy in America, and when he comes to India, he finds that it is a tragedy in India. People are not really educated enough to choose and elect their representatives. That is a problem. Ashok calls them half-baked Indians like Balram. Balram too says that his story could be called the autobiography of a half-baked Indian. If people are not well educated, then what kind of democracy can we have? That is a question that we have in this novel. Corruption is a major theme in the novel which runs throughout the novel. People exploit each other at home and everywhere. Teachers deprive students of their midday meal and uniforms, as in the case of the school teacher Krishna. The police support the landlords and politicians and not the innocent poor people. Business people like Ashok and Mukesh bribe ministers and bureaucrats to evade taxes due to the nation. Electoral malpractice or rigging is a source of worry for everybody. Even servants indulge in corruption of their own, as in the case of Ram Bahadur, who demands rupees 5,000 from Balram for being sent to Delhi. Servants also cheat their masters in some ways. So corruption is not confined to politicians. Corruption is there everywhere, at home, in school, in politics, in business, in election, among the poor people, everywhere corruption is there. That is what Aravind Adiga has observed and presented in this novel. We also see the theme of class conflicts in the novel. Caste conflicts erupt in India in different places at different times. These conflicts are rampant in Naxal hit areas. The landlords have their own private army to protect themselves against these Naxals. The Naxals attack the landlords. The poor villagers are attacked by both the Naxals and the landlords because they suspect whether they are supporting the Naxals or the landlords. Balram mentions about the verification of his family history before getting his job as a driver in a private house, that is the stocks. Poverty leads to crime and violence. This is the truth of the world. If we reduce poverty, we can also reduce crime and violence. That we know, but we have to take more steps to reduce poverty in our country. But given the kind of globalization and economic development that we have, poverty increases. That is a source of worry for writers like Aravind Adiga. The poor can never break away from their poverty due to their unequal status. Balram is an instance of the trap that he has been caught in class conflicts. We have another theme called rural and urban divide. The rural areas of India, especially in the north, present a gloomy picture. Balram from Lakshman Gar in Bihar illustrates the divide between the rural and urban people. Even when the poor people move to the city, they cannot escape from their poverty. Aravind Adiga presents a bleak picture of the construction workers in Delhi. We can see that now in different parts of the country. While the rich have heaters to warm themselves in the winter, the poor people burn plastics on the pavements in Delhi during winter. The rural people don't have access to jobs, education, health, drinking water and clean environment as the urban rich people have. This is again not a healthy trend for a democratic country like India. We come to a very important aspect of the novel, which is called the Rooster Coop. Aravind Adiga uses this as a symbol to explain why servitude exists in India. The Rooster Coop is the metaphor and symbol for the downtrodden people in India. Why poor people remain poor, Aravind Adiga explains through the Rooster Coop. According to the Rooster Coop theory, servants watch other servants and keep them inside the cage. Servants don't allow other servants to grow and become better people. We have some quotations from the novel. The Rooster Coop was doing its work. Servants have to keep other servants from becoming innovators, experimenters or entrepreneurs. Yes, that is a sad truth, Mr. Premier. Mr. Premier is the Premier of China. A fortune telling machine in a railway station reminds Balram about the Rooster Coop. Whenever you go to a railway station, you will find a fortune telling machine. You put a coin inside and you get a fortune telling chit, as Balram says. And in one chit, Balram found this: respect for the law is the first command of the gods. Just then Balram had broken the law and he is given this kind of fortune, and so he tells us, I let the fortune telling chit fall on the floor and I laughed. Even here in the weight machine of a train station, they try to hoodwink us, the upper class or the bureaucratic class. Here on the threshold of a man's freedom, he is about to escape from Delhi. Here on the threshold of a man's freedom, just before he boards a train to a new life, these flashing fortune machines are the final alarm bell of the Rooster Coop. Suppose somebody escapes from the Rooster Coop, even in a railway station, we have some kind of alarm bell. That's how Balram analyzes the story. That's how Aravind Adiga analyzes the maladies or the social political problems we have in our country. A very sad picture of the Rooster Coop in Delhi, particularly old Delhi, is presented to us in this passage. Aravind Adiga tells us, go to old Delhi behind the Jama Masjid and look at the way they keep chickens there in the market. Hundreds of pale hens and brightly colored roosters stuffed tightly into wire mesh cages, packed as tightly as worms in a belly, pecking each other and shitting on each other, jostling just for breathing space, the whole cage giving off a horrible stench, the stench of terrified feathered flesh. On the wooden desk above this coop sits a grinning young butcher, showing off the flesh and organs of a recently chopped up chicken, still oleaginous. Oleaginous means oily, with a coating of dark blood. The roosters in the coop smell the blood from above. They see the organs of their brothers lying around them. They know they are next, yet they do not rebel. They do not try to get out of the coop. The very same thing is done with the human beings in this country. This is the grim picture of not only the roosters, it is also about human beings. People don't allow each other to free themselves. Along with the Rooster Coop, we have the theme of servitude. We have a few quotations from the novel to support the theme of servitude, slavery or poverty in the novel. The idea is the poor are born to remain under servitude in India. That's not a healthy trend for a democracy like India. That's how Aravind Adiga would believe it. Masters trust their servants with diamonds in this country. Why doesn't that servant take the suitcase full of diamonds? He is no Gandhi, he is human, he is you and me, but he is in the Rooster Coop. A servant who is in the Rooster Coop cannot do anything but be a servant, even when he has a bag of diamonds. What keeps the millions of poor Indians work in servitude? How stable is such system? Why does the Rooster Coop work? How does it trap so many millions of men and women so effectively? Aravind Adiga asks these questions, and a question is raised now. What if one day, for instance, a driver took his employer's money and ran? What would his life be like? That is the whole story of this novel, The White Tiger. Balram escapes with his employer's money and he starts a new life. That's what we have in the novel, The White Tiger. We have seen the themes in the novel. Now let's discuss the techniques of email writing, Bildungsroman, flashback, Foster, advertisement, table, juxtaposition and dark humor. Let's start with the email occasion. Premier when Giabo's real visit first to Bangalore on May 5th in 2005 is the occasion, and then he visited Delhi. Normally a foreign premier like a Chinese premier would visit Delhi. Instead, when Giabo preferred to visit Bangalore because Bangalore was growing up as an IT destination for the world. The novel was written during 2005 and 2007 in an epistolary form, that is the email form. There are 7 unsent and unread emails written over 6 nights and 2 mornings in a week's time. This is an unsolicited training manual in Indian entrepreneurship. The context of rising Asian economies like tiger economy is at the background of this novel. Let's see the email writing now. The novel begins like this: for the desk of His Excellency Wen Jiabo, the Premier's office, Beijing, capital of the freedom loving nation of China. There may be some kind of contradiction there, still we have it here. From the desk of our character, our protagonist, the White Tiger, a thinking man and an entrepreneur living in the world's center of technology and outsourcing, Electronics City Phase 1, just off Hosur Main Road, Bangalore, India. So we have the address of the Chinese premier and the address of our protagonist Balram Halwai, otherwise called Ashok Sharma in the novel. This is a Bildungsroman novel because it deals with the growth of a character like Balram from childhood to his business success. Balram, a village boy from the dark India, grows into a successful social and business entrepreneur. He faces the hurdles of basic education, skill training like learning to drive, suitable employment, social mobility and the establishment of a taxi service for the outsourcing IT companies in Bangalore. Balram is enlightened about himself, his family, his society, politics, business and international relations. Actually, Balram educates himself in all these areas. He experiences alcoholic, sexual and financial needs when he goes to Delhi. In fact, Vitiligo Lips helps him and also Ramanathan helps him understand these needs. He murders his master to mobilize the capital for his business and justifies his unethical action. From one perspective, it is unethical. He is aware of it, but he has no other way to progress in a democratic country like India. The narrative does not arouse hatred for the character. Interestingly, we don't hate Balram Halwai for committing this murder. We sympathize with the protagonist because what else will he do? The novel is written in such a way that we have some kind of sympathy for Balram Halwai, the protagonist of the novel. That's what great writers do. We don't hate Macbeth in Shakespeare's Macbeth, the play, though he is a murderer of his own king. We have the flashback technique in this novel. The narrative unfolds gradually in flashbacks with back and forth intertwining references to the present and the past. The narration actually begins in Bangalore, but the original action takes place in Lakshmangarh near Gaya in Bihar. The events in Lakshmangarh, then Dhanbad, then Delhi and then Hyderabad are recounted by Balram Halwai in piecemeal, but all of them together make a whole story at the end. The novel ends in Bangalore with the suggestion of expanding Balram's business into real estate and school education. At the end of the novel, Balram is a successful taxi operator. He plans to expand into real estate business and school education. We have the technique of poster in this novel. We have 3 slides for this poster. This is actually some kind of advertisement from the Delhi police. The title of the poster is Assistant Sought in Search for Missing Man. Actually, Aravind Adiga splits this poster into different pieces and then develops the story. That is again a very interesting way of developing the story. General public is hereby informed that the man in the picture, namely Balram Halwai alias Munna, son of Vikram Halwai, rickshaw puller, is wanted for questioning. Age between 25 and 35, complexion blackish, face oval, height 5 feet 4 inches estimated, build thin and small. This is the picture of Balram Halwai. We find Balram Halwai, as he narrates his story, elaborates on this and tells a story. The next part of the poster we have here, we have some ideas from different locations, so we have put them together. Balram Halwai alias Munna. The suspect comes from the village of Lakshmangarh. Then we have some more ideas, comes from the village of Lakshmangarh in the district of Gaya. Gradually we have more and more information about character Balram. The suspect was last seen wearing blue checkered polyester shirt, orange polyester trousers, maroon color sandals. He is son of Vikram Halwai, rickshaw puller, in the Dawla Kwan area of New Delhi on the night of September 2nd near the ITC Maurya Sheraton Hotel. The missing man was employed as driver of a Honda City vehicle at the time of the alleged incident. In this regard, a case FIR number 438/05 police station Dawla Kwan, Delhi has been registered. He is also believed to be in possession of a bag filled with a certain quantity of cash. We will come to the last part of the poster. Any person having any information or clue about this missing man may kindly inform at CBI website. We have the address, we have the phone numbers. Signed at the following address or telephone number, we have all the details here. This is how Aravind Adiga writes a realistic novel. He gives exact details, even the internet address, email address, he gives them here. Balram Halwai also has a website and he has an email as well. We also have some advertisements in the novel. The globalized economy, we have to understand, heavily depends on advertisements for success in business. Particularly for the liquor shop, we have some advertisements. Jackpot English liquor shop, Indian made foreign liquor sold here. Again we have one more, Action English liquor shop, Indian made foreign liquor sold here. This is what we find in Dhanbad. Then we have Sakti whitener with charcoal and cloves to clean your teeth, only 1 rupee 50 paise. This is the advertisement that we have in Delhi. When Pinky Madam tells Balram to clean his teeth, he buys toothpaste. We also have another advertisement on a rickshaw. Is excess weight a problem for you? A question. It is found on the back of a rickshaw. Call Jimmy Singh at Metro Gym. We have even the phone number here. So a rickshaw puller who is poor, who is lean and thin, carries this advertisement for people who are rich, who become obese, who have to reduce their weight. We have a table, very interesting table. Here is a table of price list for Jackpot English liquor in one case. This is factual, some kind of price list is first given. Then we have a comparative table of two puddles of spit on a Delhi road. There are two puddles, one on the left hand, another on the right hand. The left hand puddle of spit seem to say, don't kill Ashok and steal his money. There are something like two angels, good angel and bad angel. The good angel tells, don't kill Ashok and steal his money. There we have 4 points against killing and stealing. Then we have the right hand puddle of spits which seem to say, kill Ashok and steal his money. Maybe this is like a devil which tells Balram, kill Ashok. Here again we have 4 points for killing and stealing. This is how Balram indulges in some kind of logical reasoning, why he should kill, why he should not kill. It is not that Balram decides to kill Ashok, his master, immediately. Lots of mental thought processes go into Balram before he decides to kill his master. We also have the technique of juxtaposition in the novel. The major contrast is between light and darkness. On the one hand we have the India of light, on the other hand we have the India of darkness. The India of darkness is in the north and the India of light is in the south. So we have some ideas going under these two headings. In some cases they may overlap. So in the India of light we have men with small bellies, well developed cities, best education, best health. We have rich people. These are the people who eat well. They may eat others as well. The place is south and the well developed places are in the coastal areas. We have a choice to be good in the south and we have this outsourcing business and it is a truly global village in the south. Whereas in contrast the India of darkness we have men with big bellies, we have many underdeveloped villages, we have worst education and there is no health facility. Because of this lack of health facility, Balram's father dies. Balram and Kishan take their father to the hospital but there is no doctor. How corruption operates in health sector, Aravind Adiga describes there. We have the poor people and these are people eaten by the rich people and they are in the north. And in the river areas, it is surprising to see that riverine areas where civilizations began, we find poor people living here. There is no choice to be good. Even if one wants to be good, one cannot be good in the area of darkness. And these are people exploiting others, Paka local people, not global people. We have the case of dark humor throughout the novel. We have just one example here. Balram says, me and thousands of others in this country like me are half baked because we were never allowed to complete our schooling. Open our skulls, look in with a pen light and you will find an odd museum of ideas. Sentences of history or mathematics remembered from school textbooks. No boy remembers his schooling like the one who was taken out of school, let me assure you. Sentences about politics read in a newspaper while waiting for someone to come to an office. Triangles and pyramids seen on the torn pages of the old geometry textbooks which every tea shop in this country uses to wrap its snacks in. Bits of All India Radio news bulletins, things that drop into your mind like lizards from the ceiling. In the half hour before falling asleep, all these ideas, half formed and half digested and half correct, mix up with other half cooked ideas in your head, and I guess these half formed ideas bugger one another and make more half formed ideas, and this is what you act on and live with. Poor people who don't get good education, who are prevented from attending schools and colleges, they have half baked ideas and they are confused, they don't have a clear way of thinking. But in the case of Balram Halwai, though he was born in such a place, he chose to come out of that darkness. But we have the problem of this unreliability of the narrator. If he calls himself half baked, how do we believe the story told by Balram Halwai? That is a question discussed by critics with reference to this novel. Now we come to the summary of our discussion on the themes and techniques in The White Tiger. We saw the objectives, we noticed how Adiga diagnosed India, we looked at some major themes like the Rooster Coop and Servitude in the novel. We also found some interesting techniques of novel writing used by Aravind Adiga. email and flashback are very prominent, and also we found dark humor in the novel. We will find it throughout the novel, but we saw only one sample. We have some references for you to understand more about the themes and techniques in the novel. You can read the novel and also some articles like this and understand more about India and the novel in India. Thank you.